Hi, it's Chris here again today, working on my boat today. I'm going to try to work on improving the throttle cable adjustment in my Mercruiser 4.3 liter 190 horsepower engine. So here's the issue that we have. This is I believe a Commander 3000 or 4000. If I put the engine into drive somewhere down here, you can see there's a little play there. I don't know if that has any impact on this, but if we go to the throttle cable, there's actually a bunch of play in this adjustment. And this movement, what's happening is when I'm towing a skier, if I try to get a consistent speed going, as I hit waves, the engine speed changes. And at first I thought maybe I needed a carb rebuild, and then I paid closer attention to this, and I think every time when I hit a wave, this is jostling or moving around. So I'm going to try to improve that today. So the first thing I'm going to do is work on finding out what the other end of the throttle cable looks like inside the controller. Okay, so here's the throttle control. This is a panel mount Commander 4000 pistol grip, and the first thing to do is we got to take off these bevel screws. Okay, then we need to push in our throttle only button. Oh, can I do this one hand? And then pry off the cap. Okay. The next step is to take out the bolt inside the handle. That's an 11/16 nut, and it helps to have a narrow walled socket. This one's probably a little thicker than I'd want. Okay. You can see that has some blue Loctite on that we'll have to make sure we replace. Take out this bushing. Alright, the next step, so what I've done is I just loosened up the wiring back here. I'm not going to disconnect it just yet if I don't need to, so I'm not planning on taking any of that apart. So we're just going to now try to lower the control housing so we can get a good look at it. So there's 6 bolts. 3 of them hold the bezel, this bezel to the panel, and then 3 hold the control housing to the bezel. We want to take off the ones that hold the control housing to the bezel. Looks like they're 7/16. This should drop down. Right into my coffee. Okay, so now I'm going to take a look at this and take a closer look at the throttle cable. Alright, so I've wiped this down. Now we're going to take off the back cover here and see if we can figure out what's going on. Okay, so I've taken the control box out of the boat. I disconnected the ignition cutout switch and disconnected the cables, just a little nut on each one, bolt on each one. And I've taken it into the garage to try to figure out what was going on. And this is what I found. So the top bell crank is the throttle arm. And when you turn your pistol grip, when you push your lever forward, this is what turns, okay? So that cam drives this follower. There's a little roller sleeve on this screw, on this shoulder screw, and it drives this follower in this cam groove. So this is how much play there is without the handle turning at all. And there's three main contributors, four main contributors. One is the slop between this shoulder screw and the guide plate. One is between the boss on the lever arm for the throttle and the guide plate. One is the clearance between the roller in this follower and the guide plate, and then one is the guide plate and this plastic slide that it runs in. So all of those are contributing to this much play. So I've tried to. So here's what I discovered. When I looked closely at this shoulder screw. See, I don't know if this is going to show up well. I don't think it's focusing. But there's what I noticed was there's two flats in this shoulder screw from where it has gotten a little worn out. You can see my fingernail hanging up on it. Those are the flats. So when I reinstall this, I'm going to turn it 90 degrees from the way it was installed. That will help that clearance a little bit. I'm not going to do anything about the clearance between this boss. There's very little I can do there, and it's pretty small actually. It's not a lot. And then there are two other things that I'm going to do here. If I take this screw out, what you'll see is I machined a new follower, a new roller rather, and this one here is a little tighter on the inner diameter to the shoulder screw, and significantly tighter on the outer diameter to the cam groove that it runs in. So this is the original one. It's probably hardened steel, and I don't know if it's just, maybe it's not, maybe that's why it wore out, but this plate looks shot peen, so I know that this is probably pretty good case hardened. So this is the new one, and I machined it starting with a spacer that you can get at Lowe's. Actually, I machined the spacer at Lowe's, has a 1/4 inch ID and too large of an OD that I machined down and then I cut off. So I'm going to put that in, and then the other thing I'm going to do is what I did was using a shim set. I figured out that if I could take away around 10 thousandths of clearance, then this, is that showing up? Between the plate and the plastic track, then that takes up a lot as well. And so I bought this stainless steel shim stock at the local hardware store. Lowe's sells this brass sheet, which is 10 thousandths thick, for a few dollars as well. So I'm going to cut this, and I'm going to fold it in and see if I can get it so that it doesn't look like it will pop out. And let's see, I'll show you. So this is before. Do before again real quick. This is before. This is after. Much bigger, more improvement. And it should still have a little more drag to the throttle, but that should be okay once I grease it all up. No more 150 RPM jumps. So I'm gonna make the spacer, and actually, why don't I'll tear this down in front of the camera. We're gonna re-grease the whole thing. There is a spring there, so I'm trying to be real careful that I don't screw anything up. Alright, so I'm only going to take it apart this far. I don't think I'll put some grease all around here, all on these guys, and we'll re-grease all these parts and then put it back together with the new spacers. Okay, I'm back, and here's what I've come up with. So you saw my roller. Well, I made this little spacer out of that stainless steel shim stock, and this guy actually just drops right in on top of that plastic piece. I'm going to put some low friction, high pressure grease, waterproof grease. This stuff is real popular on bicycles. This will increase the friction on that plate a little bit. I think it's worth it. Let's see how we did. You can see actually on this side, maybe that's grind marks. Plastic shouldn't have worn this out, but something definitely wore. Okay. Oop. So here's the play, and there's more drag, but I don't think enough to make enough that it should be a problem. I'll put it all back together and see what I think, but looks like this is going to work okay. I might put a little button of foam or something on top of that to make sure that the cover presses this down and keeps it pushed down so that it doesn't pop out. That would be bad if it popped out and locked the boat in high gear. One last update, instead of using a button, I found a stainless steel screw and I just screwed it right down into the plastic, and the head of that is now holding that down and it's not going anywhere. And then just for the sake of not losing it, the old roller spacer, in case I decide that this is all too snug, I just screwed it to the unused side of the shifter arm with an 832 screw, so it's just going to stay there, and if I decide to switch back I won't lose it. So this is all greased up, put back together. I put this is the tighter you make this is the friction adjustment nut on the other side. So if you really snug that up, it becomes very a lot of friction on the pistol itself. So I loosened that up to the point that I think that this should feel snug but nice. It's locked right now, so so I'm going to put this back in and we'll see how it looks. Hi. So I have to apologize. I realized as I was pulling these video clips together and making the YouTube video, I never went back and video recorded what the final installed version looked like and what the improvement was in the cable slack. I'm glad to report that the play and the cable at the carburetor was reduced from about 3/4 of an inch that you saw earlier down to maybe about 1/8 of an inch. So it was much crisper throttle control from the handle, and there was noticeable improvement in my ability to maintain speed when I was pulling the skiers and the tubers. So if you are experiencing a similar problem with your Quicksilver throttle, feel free to give these tweaks a shot and see if they can help you as well. Good luck!